The true mind lies in the heart. The heart in itself is a wavelength which signifies other organs to channel the movement of the soul. The soul is our destiny. The soul represents the sun. Mars is the test in consciousness. Now, Mars is in everybody's birth chart, and Mars is our actual impulse, which generates the essence of desire. However, the sun is where it's going. The sun is strongly connected to the heart. The heart chakra is connected to Venus. Venus channels the essence of our needs. What we pull into our audience is governed by Venus. And there's an interlink between that and the ego. Now, the ego is actually where our potential lies. However, the ego can only be open to receive when it learns to accept itself for what it is. When we dissociate ourselves from believing that we are not or we don't have a strong ego is when the problem occurs, because the ego is always searching for gratification, whether it's food, knowledge, education, meditation. Everything is in essence is searching for balance in its action. So the ego is going to look for balance because it wants to be satisfied. So it needs the satisfaction to reach its state of balance. The only one concern is when the ego doesn't go after what it searches for. And when the ego is not honest with it, it creates agitation, anger, and frustration. This is why one has to first learn what the ego is. Because the importance of knowing the ego is allowing you to flourish in the realm of the mind. An addiction is only stored in the mind because the ego was unable to express itself. The moment the ego begins to express what it truly desires, only then can the sense of control be accomplished. So, now, the ancients spoke about awareness and reaching enlightenment. Awareness allows you to be familiar with the moment. And within that moment, there is space. Now, when you are caught up in the idea of a trance, let us say that you are about to indulge in one of the key sensations that you love to indulge in. So it could be food, it could be, just doing something that you like or you admire. When you're about to indulge in such a state, the moment you bring your awareness into it, it allows you to gain a sense of control. Now, it's about being totally conscious of the actual event. in action that allows you to um, overcome the ego. Now, the ego is not about being overcome. The ego is about it understanding the process of enlightenment. The ego wants to experience what it feels like to be enlightened because the ego is in search to understand itself. And so, in reality, the only way you can be enlightened is to have an ego because it's the self. The ego needs to express itself consciously, thoroughly, and completely. And if it doesn't, then this is when physical ailments, physical diseases start to manifest because it didn't express its intent, and so it doesn't reach its enlightenment. At times when you actually got what you wanted, you felt pretty okay, but once you got it, you realized something. And that's what the self is. The self realizes itself through experience. And the self is the ego center, which when it finds its final aspect of experience, its center of experience starts to fade into more refined states of consciousness. And those refined states of consciousness leads you into the essence of love. Because in essence, although we say we are in love with someone, something, a place, a person, that very thing, place, or person is basically a representation of our desire, which desire in its reality is the essence of love. Although they say that desire and love are not the same, but to want something is a desire. And whether it's a need, it's still a sense of desire. You're still looking to fulfill that. And so even enlightenment is a state of fulfillment. And in essence, it should be the final, because enlightenment can only come out of experience of desires which didn't fulfill you. So only when you have fully amplified and consciously experienced everything that you have wanted to experience, only then can you seek enlightenment. Otherwise, it would not make sense. When someone says or seeks or says that they want to meditate to clear their minds, they first have to ask themselves the question, what is it that they want to do? Or why is it that they want to change the perception of their thinking? If they are caught up in the desire state, it cannot shift consciousness because it still has to fulfill a part of that imbalanced state of consciousness. And so the only way that you end up pulling away from things that you don't want to deal with or experience is by understanding it. Once the emotion is understood, the mind will not go there again. It's only when the mind or the emotion is caught up in gratifying that state that you will constantly go or have the need to go back to that state. And so in essence, when you fall in love, you must identify what it is that you are falling in love with. You must understand what it is that you're falling in love with. You must understand the trigger which sets you into motion. What is the intent behind the attraction which pulls you towards the other sex? And by knowing this, you then begin to realize that very thing is a core desire inside of your matrix, which the other person fulfills, and thus you're able to be more in tune with the essence of your drive. Because once you know the essence of your drive, you can start taking note. This is why it's important to carry a journal. The journal allows you to be in tune with your true self. And once you can figure out the essence of your desire, you are able to now move at a state of peace, because you know that the triggers, the feeling, the thought which is associated with it, and you know how that pulls you in. And thus you have more control of the next step that you're about to undertake regarding that situation. And so you have a, a modulation which follows your heart, which basically allows you to interpret the part of you which is pulling to the wrong direction. And you can actually see where and how you can control that state. And what it does, in essence, it refines the heart. It refines the heart. If you truly want something in your life, this takes me into this space. When you truly want something, it has to resonate with your heart. If something doesn't resonate, it will start to vibrate at a different speed. The heart's desire vibrates at the speed of thought. Only the heart's desire. Only the heart's desire. When the heart does not desire it, it then slows down the process of synchronicity. When people say, oh, I can manifest very quickly, it's because they are vibrating at the frequency of the heart. They are vibrating at the frequency of belief. The heart believes and sends impulses to the highest consciousness. Astrologically, the heart pulsates in a triangular motion, which then synthesizes the elements in nature. Now, when we look at Leo, which is the physical heart, which beats throughout the body, which sends blood into the system. Now, what happens is, as that synthesizes, it then interconnects and speaks within the following sign, which is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the seat of belief. Belief is actually governed by the biggest organ, which is the liver. Within itself, it then synthesizes the right proportion of energy, which then brings you back into consciousness, which is Aries. So the triangle or the triangular modulation of this event is between Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo, the three syntheses of fire, which signifies the potential of attraction based upon the frequency of the heart, the belief, and its intent, which is in the mind. And this is the quickest way to attract and manifest consciousness into action. Mars, which is Aries, Leo, which is the sun, Jupiter, which is expansion to reaching consciousness. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope this brought a little bit of light to how the mind intertwines with the heart and the seat